Two teenage boys casually strolled into a luxury car dealership one afternoon, dressed in nothing more than simple combat shorts and plain white t-shirts. No flash, no flair. Just two curious kids. They slowly made their way to a shimmering high-end vehicle parked near the front and started asking a few genuine questions. But before they could finish, the salesman gave them a once-over, up and down, his face tightening into a sneer. With a smirk barely hidden, he leaned in and said with disdain, "I think you boys are in the wrong place." His voice had that sharp sting, the kind that cuts deeper than it sounds. "These cars, they start at $900,000, he added smugly. Laughter followed. Not just his, but from nearby staff and even a few customers. It echoed around the showroom like it had been waiting to happen. Humiliated and disheartened, the boys didn't argue. They didn't fight back. They just gave a small, quiet nod and walked out. Heads slightly lower, shoulders slumped just a bit. But the story didn't end there. No, it was only just beginning. The next morning, the dealership's sleek glass doors reflected something nobody expected. Not one, but two Rolls-Royce Boat Tails, each one worth more than most people's homes. They glided silently to a stop outside the entrance. The back door of the first one swung open, and out stepped the same two teenage boys. But this time they weren't alone. Right behind them, stepping out with calm authority, was their father, dressed in a sharply tailored suit that whispered power and precision. His presence was magnetic. The same salesman who had laughed just the day before stood frozen, mouth slightly ajar. He never saw it coming. Not in a million years. But let's rewind. Let's go back to that moment when it all began. It was a regular afternoon at the showroom. Espresso machines humming, polite chatter, the scent of leather and polish in the air, when two boys on bicycles quietly rolled up to the front entrance. No roar of an engine. Just the soft creak of bike tires and the metallic click of kickstands dropping into place. Dressed plainly. Combat shorts, white tees, worn-out sneakers that had clearly seen some adventure. No flashy brands. No designer shades. No gold chains. Just that raw, wide-eyed excitement that comes from dreams too big for their age. They walked up the stairs and through the automatic doors, which parted with a soft whoosh, as if welcoming their curiosity. Inside, their eyes lit up. They weren't bouncing off the walls. They didn't yell. They didn't touch anything. They simply took it all in. The sheen of the car bodies, the flawless curves, the kind of elegance that takes your breath away. One of the boys leaned toward the other and whispered, almost reverently, "That's it, that's the one." His finger pointed to a deep, midnight blue hypercar that practically radiated perfection. It didn't just sit there, it owned the space. One of only a few in the country. Price tag. Well over $900,000. But just as they stepped forward to admire it up close, a voice, crisp and cold, sliced through the air like a blade. "Can I help you?" came the question. But it wasn't an offer. It was a challenge. The boys turned. A sharply dressed salesman in a navy suit approached, adjusting his cufflinks with practiced elegance. His polished shoes gleamed like mirrors, and his hair was gelled back just enough to look stylish without trying too hard. He exuded confidence, the smug kind. His eyes dropped slowly to their sneakers, lingered on their t-shirts, then climbed back up to their young, hopeful faces. "I'm sorry," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm, "but I think you're in the wrong place." He didn't shout. He didn't need to. The condescension was clear enough. One of the boys blinked, startled. "We were just wondering. These cars, do they start at $900,000? The salesman cut him off, harsh, dismissive, every syllable pronounced like an insult. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable somewhere else." From behind him, muffled chuckles floated over. Even a few customers, a couple sitting nearby, glanced over, gave each other that "ah, how cute" look and shook their heads. The laughter wasn't loud, but it was enough. Enough to burn. The younger boy looked down. The older one forced a smile, polite, maybe even embarrassed. "Sorry to bother you," he mumbled, and the two of them turned and walked away. Slower than before. bit smaller. The showroom doors whispered shut behind them as they stepped outside. And that should have been the end. Just another dismissed moment. Another ordinary day full of espresso, quotas, and shallow smiles. Then, as they were mounting their bikes to ride off, a voice called out, "Wait!" They turned. A woman emerged from a desk tucked in the back. Her walk was steady, her tone firm but kind. She wore a cream blouse, sleek black slacks, and a ponytail that gave her an air of quiet power. She wasn't selling anything. She wasn't performing. She was just real. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. The boys hesitated, exchanged a glance, then walked their bikes back and followed her inside. No hesitation now. She brought them over to the car they had admired. "I heard you asking about this model," she said softly. "It's one of the best we have. Let me show you something." Her tone was inviting, not sleazy, not fake. She crouched down, meeting them at eye level. Then she began, talking about the engine, the custom features, the advanced systems built into every inch of its frame. She handed them brochures, pointing to specific details. They didn't ask about the price. Not once. Their questions were about craftsmanship, engineering, legacy, and that impressed her. "Would you like to sit in it?" she asked. Their eyes lit up. "Seriously?" One of them breathed. She nodded. Respectfully. Genuinely. They took turns, sitting inside carefully, reverently. No jumping around. No TikToks. Just silence. Appreciation. When they stepped out, she handed them her card. "If you ever want to know more, call me. You're always welcome here." "Thank you," they said, their voices quiet but sincere. And this time when they rode off, their heads were held just a little higher. The floor returned to its rhythm. The smug salesman leaned over to a coworker and scoffed. "Wasting her time." She heard him. But she didn't flinch. 'Cause something about those boys stayed with her. Maybe it was the way they listened. Maybe it was the depth of their questions. Or maybe they reminded her of herself. Once upon a time when she too had been overlooked. That night, the dealership closed as usual. Lights dimmed, doors locked. But the real story, it was still unfolding. Themselves, nervous energy buzzing beneath polished surfaces and tailored suits. The two boys remained still, their expressions calm but watchful. They aren't here for revenge. They're here to be seen, to be acknowledged. Not as nuisances in sneakers, but as people who matter. Minutes tick by. Then the office door opens again. The manager reappears, visibly shaken. His professional mask cracked just enough to show sweat beading at his brow. He walks straight to the father, careful with each step like he's navigating glass. "You were right," the manager says quietly, voice laced with regret. "We reviewed the footage. I'd like to sincerely apologize on behalf of the dealership." The father doesn't smile. He doesn't gloat. He simply nods once, slowly. "Good," he replies, his tone still even. "Then you know which of your staff represent your values, and which do not." He glances at the woman in the cream blouse, the one who had treated his sons with kindness and respect. She stands a little straighter under his gaze, uncertain. He gestures toward her. "This employee," he says clearly, "treated my sons not based on what they wore, but on who they were." She saw their curiosity. She answered their questions. She showed them respect when no one else would. The woman blinks, startled, then steps forward. The father reaches into his inner jacket pocket and pulls out a sleek leather envelope. "This," he says, handing it to her, "is a letter of recommendation. Personal. If ever you need a position anywhere, contact the number inside. That door will always be open for you." Her eyes widen. She accepts the envelope with shaking hands. "Thank you," she breathes. The father nods again, then turns his attention back to the manager. "As for the rest," he says, "I'll leave you to make the right decisions. My family does not support institutions that judge before listening. That value presentation over substance." He turns to leave. No raised voice. No legal threats. Just calm authority and clarity. The kind that doesn't demand respect. It commands it. The trio walks toward the door. The younger brother casts one last glance at the salesman, the one who had mocked them. The man looks smaller now, somehow. As they step outside, the sun bathes them in golden light. The boys return to their respective boat tails, doors held open by white-gloved drivers. Engines hum to life. Not loud but powerful, like a promise kept. And just like that, they glide away, leaving silence, stunned expressions, and a powerful lesson in their wake. Never underestimate someone just because they don't look the part. Because real wealth doesn't shout. It whispers. And when it speaks, the world listens.